This is my 2021 MINI Countryman F60. It's a facelifted model, or LCI in BMW-speak. And in a moment, I'm literally going to be lifting it. Yes, the time has come to give it some more ground clearance. How and why? Keep on watching to find out. As I'm recording this, my Countryman is 3 years old, it's out of warranty, and that's important because I bought it with a plan to lift it, but then the leasing company said it would exclude the steering and all-wheel drive system from the warranty, which I was not ready to accept. I'm not getting a new car to drive it without the warranty on some of the most expensive elements. But 3 years later, the car seems fine and I decided to go for it. If you want to know more about why I chose the Countryman, click the link on the screen and in the video. Why am I doing this and what are my goals? Well, the main goal is to improve the proportions. I think the Countryman sits tad too low. Also, the few times I tried to venture off the beaten path, I quickly found out ground clearance is an issue. It was never my intention, and still isn't, I think, to turn this into a rock crawler, but I find the vision of light overlanding somewhat appealing. And I also hope changing the shock absorbers will improve the ride. Mini's go-kart feel sounds good in the ads, less so when you have a crashy ride. Before I visit the workshop, I want to set some benchmarks to better understand how the lift affects the car. I'll start with a simple fuel economy test. I'll drive around 20 kilometers on a dual carriageway with the cruise control set to 120 kilometers per hour. It's 10 kilometers one way, 10 kilometers another, which should give me a reliable figure. If the entire WLTP cycle is just 23.25 kilometers, 20 should be enough, right? And I'm going off the dual carriageway and the result is 7.3 liters per 100 kilometers. That's at 120 kilometers per hour because now as I'm slowing down, the result is improving, obviously. But yeah, 7.3 is the realistic 120 kilometers per hour result. The next test is ground clearance. Now, according to specification, the Countryman has 16.5 centimeters ground clearance stock. I have cut some wooden blocks from 15.5 centimeters going up every 5 millimeters. So let's see what's the real deal. Okay, so I have quickly reviewed the GoPro footage, and it seems that if the ground clearance is really 16.5 centimeters, it's probably somewhere like right in the middle under the car, but in front we have this kind of faux skid plate thingy, and yeah, this is where all the blocks fell, including the 15.5 centimeter one. So yeah, I really wonder if this lift is going to change anything. I mean, now I'm aiming for at least 15.5 centimeters under the engine when we do the lift. Bravo, Mini, bravo! I mean, come on, this is not an off-roader. Okay, now I'll try to measure body roll. I'm using a simple inclinometer like you'll find on an off-roader. It basically tells you when you're about to roll over. So first I'll drive along this bend at 50 kilometers per hour. Okay, and I think I'm seeing 15, less than 20, but let's see the close-up, the replay from the other camera. And now I'll brake with full force from 50 kilometers per hour. So that's pedal to the metal. Okay, I think we're off the chart, so that might not be the best result, but still, I have some benchmarks, and now it's time to roll up the sleeves and do some real work, which nobody really cares about.
My lift kit is nothing big. These are just 2 cm spacers made by a German company called Delta 4x4. As far as I know, they supplied the lift kit for X-Raid, which I was supposed to originally install. Meanwhile, when I arrived at the garage, I saw another lifted Countryman. This is a 2-inch lift by a US company called M7 Tuning. I was considering it, but I wasn't ready for the hassle of ordering parts from the US to Europe. Also, my lift will be somewhat more subtle.
The garage working on my Countryman is called Motosynteza, and it is headed by a friend of mine, Przemek Szafrański, who's a big off-road fan, a mechanic, and a Polish automotive TV personality. His team quickly disassembled and reassembled my suspension and didn't mind me filming them. They're used to their boss filming his project in the garage. It took about 4 hours to do all 4 corners, and it would have probably been even quicker if I didn't ask them to slow down so that I could set up with the camera. Also, they had experience with the 2-inch lift a couple of days earlier, so my 2 cm spacers were a piece of cake.
Why am I not doing this myself? Well, because I don't have the place or the tools. I watched some YouTube tutorials and I quickly realized this was way above my pay grade. It's also a 2-person job with at least one of them knowing what they're doing. Lifting the rear will require putting in 2 elements. One spacer goes under the coil spring to compensate for the new shock's higher travel, and the other spacer goes on top of the rear strut mount as the actual lift. In the front, we've got McPherson struts, where the spring and the shock absorber are bound together. The spacer will be installed between the strut mount and the strut itself. However, since we're replacing the shock absorbers, the mechanics will also have to partly disassemble the bottom part of the suspension, disconnect the control arm and the stabilizer bar link, and then, using a special tool, compress the spring to remove the strut. Also, while they're in there, they'll look at the strut bearings on top. This is what they found on the blue Countryman they were working on a couple of days earlier. One of the bearings is completely gone. So, if you ever hear some suspicious suspension noise but coming from under the bonnet, it could be the strut bearings. Mine are fine. While working on my car, the mechanics asked me a lot of questions to which I did not know the answers. I asked the Delta 4x4 and Bilstein if these are the right parts, and this is all I knew. Fortunately, there were no hiccups, no missing parts, no need to replace anything. Watching mechanics at work, you learn to appreciate how replacing one part may require a complicated disassembly to get to said part. This means having the right tools and the know-how so you don't end up breaking stuff. After messing with the suspension, I had to fix the wheel geometry, That's a bit more advanced than simple wheel alignment. The mechanic installs these reflective targets on wheels, and there's a bunch of cameras which follow the dots. The computer knows the appropriate angles for various car models, and the mechanic adjusts the angles and the distances in the suspension. It takes about half an hour, maybe 45 minutes, and in Poland it costs about €60. What about the looks? Well, to an untrained eye, this is just a stock Countryman, but when I look at it, I see there is a bit more clearance in the wheel arches. Also, when looking at the car from the rear and from around the front fenders, you can make out the yellow Bilstein shocks. It's subtle, but those who know this is no longer a stock car. And just to make sure I'm not hallucinating, I repeated my measurements.
Okay, and here's the result from my second, or actually third, fuel economy run. It's 7.7 liters per 100 kilometers on a 20 kilometer stretch of dual carriageway at 120 kilometers per hour. Now, I did a sort of pre-run before I had my geometry adjusted, and it was also 7.7. However, now it's warmer, it's windier, so maybe it's like 7.6. Doesn't really matter. It's pretty much the same. Anyway, obviously the lift has cost me money to do, and it's also going to cost me in extra fuel I'm going to put into my car. But come on, this is what cars should be all about. They should be about fun, they should be about pleasure, they should be about being what you like them to be. If you want your car to be super efficient and to just take you home and to work back and forth, that's fine. But if you want your car to kind of stand out, to look cool, etc., then it's gonna cost you some money. But I think it's well worth it. I'm enjoying myself thoroughly.
Next, I checked the ground clearance. As I found out before lifting the car, the lowest point is under the engine. There is a soft felt-like engine cover down there, which I'm going to replace with a metal skid plate. I found one, and I know it's going to be at least as low. Anyway, currently I knocked down a 17 centimeter peg. Before the lift, I knocked down even the 15.5 centimeter peg, so it all checks out. I also reversed over the pegs, and it seems that under the middle of the car I have about 19.5 centimeters ground clearance. While the braking pitch result is null and void, I can feel the car dives a bit more upon braking now. And what about roll in the corners? Well, sorry for the sun, but it's early in the morning. It looks like it's the same 15 degrees. So, it seems I only made the fuel economy worse, and the diving upon braking thing, but did I improve anything?
It's been a month since the lift. During this time I drove about 1,000 kilometers, and this is what I found out. Now, finally my Countryman is comfortable. The Bilstein shocks and more suspension travel means no more hitting bump stops on rougher roads. I mean, I just raised the limit, raised the bar, but it's just much better than what it used to be on the roads I know, for example here on this forest road. Now, I get it, BMW and MINI focus on M and JCW packs, but my plan for the Countryman was always to make it more comfortable, hence the smallest stock alloys and the thickest rubber possible. However, stock shocks seem to be geared more towards the go-kart driving fun than comfort, and that was one of my problems with the Countryman, so that's fixed. Okay, I improved the ride, but has it impacted handling? Nope. When I was on a business trip, I took a scenic route along some twisty roads which badly needed repaving, at least in some places, and with stock suspension I'd have to slow down. With the lift kit and the new shocks I could enjoy every corner, maintaining a brisk pace and keeping a smile on my face. I also went off the beaten path a couple of times, nothing challenging, just to see if the 2 centimeters extra ground clearance make a difference, and yes, they do, and I'm already planning some maybe overlanding adventures trips for the next season. For now, I'm buying some basic gear so I don't end up like with the Defender by the lake. In a couple of months, I'll do a separate video about what I bought and how I use it to get out of trouble. Now, as far as the looks are concerned, my Countryman may not look drastically different from a stock car, but I know what I'm looking at and I like it. The proportions are just right. The 2-inch lift Mini I saw at the garage needed much more mods in my opinion, so mine is just perfect. And an unexpected but welcome positive change: it's easier to get out. The 2 centimeters extra mean a slightly different knee angle, and I just find it more comfortable.
And how much did this project cost? Well, the Delta 4x4 lift kit costs about €660. The Bilstein shocks were supplied by Autodoc, who sponsored the Polish version of this video, but normally they would cost about €120 a piece. And finally, Przemek was kind enough to do the install for free, but normally it would cost about €450 to have it done at his garage.
So a big shout out to Motosynteza garage for sorting me out. If you need your car serviced or repaired in Warsaw, check them out. I'll link them in the video description. Am I happy with the lift project? Yes. The car looks better in my opinion. It rides better. It's time to start planning adventures. And what do you think? Should have I left the car stock, slammed it, or given it even a bigger lift? And did you do any mods to your car? I'm very interested to find out. Let me know in the comment section below.
If you like my sarcastic, down-to-earth and possibly mildly amusing car reviews, join me every Friday at 3 p.m. Central European Time, and don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as it helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.